everybody. Alida Hernandez, Rebooted Mindset, a Spanglish entertainment production. So you'll see it in different areas. So today I have another special guest, and we're talking about the brain today, which is always a good thing. Always try to get some good information for you out there to enhance your knowledge and your life. So hopefully this works and it helps me too, because I always need some more brain power all the time. So anyway, today I have CEO Dr. Henry Mahncke, and hopefully I said it right because I try to pronounce it so many times, but it's okay. It's all good. It's Spanglish, remember. You never know what you're going to get. But anyway, he is the CEO of BrainHQ, which is a new program, and he will tell us more about it, about exercises to enhance your brain power, basically. I already tried one of the little test quiz that he had. So I did some memory and visual. So it's kind of interesting. I'm looking forward to this conversation. So, let me go. So let's welcome Doctor in. Good day, Doctor. Good day.
Good morning, Alida. How are you doing?
I'm great. I'm happy to talk to you today. It was really intriguing. The Brain HQ. I'm always looking for anything to enhance our memory. Especially my mother has Alzheimer's and my aunt has dementia. So
yep. Well, I'm very familiar with those conditions. My grandfather passed away from dementia many years ago when I was just a little boy. And it's a lot of what motivated a lot of us to get into this work of how we can improve brain health and how we can maintain a healthy brain as we get older, as we all have relatives who've gone through situations like that. So There's some exciting new science, a lot going on.
Yeah, I know. It's incredible. I'm hoping that, I've been in technology most of my life, so I know that the advancements in such a short period of time, really. To think about when the first PC came out in like 1982. Until now, remember the first IBM PC came out.
Sure.
I was part of that generation. I started very young and was working on computers since then.
Yep.
So so I was looking on your website on the Brain HQ. So I see that you have some renowned neuroscientists and just people who have done all the research for this, correct?
Yeah, that's exactly right. We're a very science-based organization. And what we're doing at BrainHQ, as you saw, is we're building science-based and clinically proven brain training exercises. These are exercises that anyone can do on the web or on their phone. And what they're designed to do and what they've been proven to do is improve brain health and improve cognitive function, things like memory, attention, and speed. And you were just mentioning a moment ago how fast that change has been in the field of technology. Well, that same speed of change has happened in the world of brain science too. If you were to rewind the clock, let's say back to, I don't know, 1970 or so, and you were to ask any brain scientist, how does the brain work? Every one of them would have said the same thing. Every one of them would have said, hey, the brain's like a computer chip, right? It's got wires, it carries information, right? It has electricity. Right. It sounds like a computer chip. And, that led to some really wrong ideas about the brain and aging, because we all know that, hey, after a computer's been around for a few years, it starts to not work very well. It starts to slow down. And hey, eventually you got to get rid of it and get a new computer. And so what people thought happened as we got older back in the day is they thought, well, the brain just wears out over time. There was literally something called the wear and tear hypothesis of brain aging. The brain just wears out. And hey, that's why we slow down as we get older. That's why our memory gets worse. And that's why we get dementia. And, I hope, Alida, if you and your listeners walk away with anything today, it's that, hey, that's just not true. Right? No neuroscientist thinks that that's the case anymore. We all now know that the brain doesn't just naturally wear out over time. And in fact, the brain is constantly reorganizing and rebuilding itself in response to what we ask it to do. And that's been just an incredible revelation in brain science, that the brain is always changing and rewiring itself. And what that means is if we ask the brain to do the right things as we get older, well, we can maintain a healthy brain, we can build and even improve our cognitive function. And that's been a huge revolution in the field of brain science.
Well, we have to get this out there everywhere, especially for the senior communities, especially the active, the assisted living, all those places. Yep. Every time I go visit a family member that's in assisted living, I just feel sad for people there, because Some of them are just left and forgotten, and
Uh,
they're just like a shell of a person, and there's some military veterans that are there, and their memory is gone, and you wish they could remember a little bit more and be happier.
I think what we're starting to realize is that hey, we need to start taking care of our brains before we get to that point of
Mm.
like extreme cognitive decline. Think about it like physical fitness. You
Hmm.
might ask, hey, when's the right age to start being more active and being more physically fit? Should I wait till I'm 70 years old and maybe I'm starting to be a
No.
little weaker in my muscles and that's the right time? And of course, that's crazy, right? All of us should engage in physical activity and think about our physical health throughout our life, right?
Yeah.
And what we're realizing is that we need to think about our brain health and our brain performance throughout our entire life, certainly before we get old and start to experience cognitive decline. But if we think about brain health and we do the right things to maintain our brain health, and there's a lot of things people can do in their ordinary life to improve their brain health, then hey, we're going to be rewarded with a healthier brain that's gonna last longer. What we all want is, medical advances have improved our lifespan, right? We are living much longer than we used to, and that's wonderful. But what everyone wants is they want their brain span, if we can use that term, to match their lifespan. We all want to have a healthy body that gives out very suddenly, and we want to have a brain that lets us enjoy life and enjoy things with our friends and our family and our loved ones and enjoy all the activities we want to do and contribute to our communities for as long as our body will keep us going. But that's what the science is starting to tell us we can do. We don't have to assume we're just going to decline. And like you said, we shouldn't just sort of park ourselves in the sofa in front of the TV and say, hey, whatever's going to happen to my brain is going to happen. We should
Right.
take steps like training our brain or other things that we can do in our lives to build and maintain that kind of brain health.
Yeah, that's so important. It's like you said, it's exercise for the brain. It's like you need exercise for your body to maintain your structure, your muscle structure, so you can keep walking. So the
Yep.
same way you have to exercise that brain. And
Yep.
many of us don't. As they get older, they just decline. They watch television, they just zone out.
Yeah,
Um,
that's exactly right. And I talk to a lot of people who, they get that they can do things to have a healthier body, right? That physical exercise or what they eat can help their heart health, for example. But they still have this older idea about brain health where they think,
mm,
well, my grandfather got dementia, so dementia's coming for me. Maybe it'll hit when I'm 72, maybe it'll hit when I'm 85, but nothing I can do about it, right? I'm just going to wake up one day and there it's going to be. And that's just a very old idea about brain health. The new idea about brain health is that we can take care of our brain health the same way we can take care of our heart or take care of our body. So we can do brain exercises like in BrainHQ. It turns out that physical exercise actually helps improve brain health. So that walking or swimming or jogging that a person might be doing to improve their
mm,
physical health, that can improve their brain health too. Turns out that eating a healthier diet actually can help improve your brain health. So all of these things can help contribute to improving brain health, and it's just a revolution with how we think about it.
right. So we hope that the new generation now, like my sons are in their 20s, that generation, I think understanding more is more into the health conscious, working out. At least my kids are. So, my kids are both at the gym, 7 days a week or something.
Well, hopefully we can extend that to our brain health as well. So,
Exactly.
what the science shows us is that on the average, we're at our cognitive peak, our best cognitive performance at the age of 27 years old. And then
Ooh,
after 27, we start to decline just a little bit, but there it comes up year after year. And, maybe we're in our 30s and we don't really quite notice. And then we're in our 40s and we feel like, well, life's just very busy. I'm kind of distracted. And then by the time we're in our 50s or 60s or 70s, we start to feel like, hey, I'm just a little bit slower than I used to be, or my memory's not quite as used to be. And why does that happen? Right? A lot of people take
right.
care of their physical bodies. But what happens to a lot of us is well, let me put it this way. Why do we have a brain? What does the brain do? Right?
It's not,
And a
it
lot
controls everything, right?
It controls everything. That's exactly right. And what that brain does in controlling everything is it's constantly learning and changing, right? If
Mm,
we didn't need to learn and change our behavior, we wouldn't need very much of a brain. But we're humans. We can learn and
right,
change our behavior anyway, right? We can live anywhere from the desert to the city to the North Pole. And that's all because we have this incredible learning adaptive brain. But
right.
what that means is that in order to keep the brain healthy, Well, we have to keep challenging it. We have to keep learning. And often what happens to a lot of us is, hey, we get kind of good at something and like we want to coast a little bit, right? We're in a certain career and we're getting rewarded for it. And so, hey, let's just keep going at that, right? We've lived in a certain city for a long time. We have our favorite routes. We go through the city. We have our favorite restaurants. We have our favorite parks. We have our favorite things to do. We're not really learning or challenging our brain anymore. And that's in many ways why the brain starts to kind of unbuild itself over time. It's not really necessary for it to have sharp cognitive performance.
Wow.
So what we're doing at BrainHQ is we're building these brain training exercises built on this science of rewiring the brain that basically help the brain get faster, get more accurate, deliver that new learning and that new challenge to the brain in such a way that the brain literally rewires itself. It builds more connections. It gets healthier and stronger. And then, study after study shows that it helps people think faster and focus better and remember more. And, these brain training exercises at BrainHQ are just one example of all the things that we can do to keep our brains healthy as we start to do this. So I hope that in your son's generation that people, as well as going to the gym to look after their physical fitness, they start to think about, hey, what are the things I can do in my everyday life to challenge my brain, to stretch my brain, learn new things, do things in a different way, do brain training, as the case may be, so that, hey, my brain is as sharp as my body is going to be strong.
Exactly. I will say that to my children. I'll see them in a couple of weeks for my birthday. So having a
Happy
big one
birthday.
now. I'm going to be big 60.
Okay.
So
Fantastic.
so
Congratulations.
thank you. Thank you. I made it.
Now, well, it sounds like
Hey.
you've been through some things that have challenged your brain along the way, is what you're
Oh,
telling me.
yes. Yes. That's why I started this podcast, because I had a stroke 8 years ago,
My
this month.
goodness.
I had
Okay.
it, and it was all of a sudden I wasn't healthy. I had diabetes. I was kind of
Okay.
uncontrolled. The night before, I had a couple of glasses of wine. So of course, that shot my blood pressure up,
Okay.
and it happened in the middle of the night.
Oh my
So from
goodness. What a terrible time. I'm not even there
yes,
necessarily.
yeah. So I was really fortunate and blessed that I got to the hospital in the morning when I woke up,
Hmm.
and I had lost about 50% of my left side, but I
Okay.
regained that over the years, and I did a
Okay.
lot of water exercises in the
Yep.
pool, because
Yep.
life. And also, one of my doctors that I went to Chinese medicine with, he told me, make sure you do creative things. I'm too
That is
analytical. I'm
good
too
advice.
analytical. Oh, yeah, I am. I'm always on the computer. I'm always, kind of, reading science. I'm a geek,
Well, me too, but it's good to balance these things out. So, a stroke is an incredible example of brain plasticity and brain rewiring, right? So, as I'm sure when you have a stroke, essentially you have this blood burst in your brain, and that blood gets released into brain tissue where it's not supposed to be, and it causes damage to that part of the brain. And then, like you said, you woke up and you had lost control over a good part of your body, it sounds like. And
Hmm.
that's because the brain controls the body and the brain receives information from the body.
Yeah.
So that's a terrible, scary thing to have happen. And the question is, well, how did you get better? What happened in your brain that helped you get better? And we know the answer to this actually very much because of science that was done in the lab that I did my PhD in UCSF back in the day. And what we found out is that when a certain part of the brain, every part of the brain does a different thing, right? Sometimes
Right.
people say, oh, isn't it true I only use 10% of my brain? It's definitely not true. Every part of your brain is important for something, right? And so when you have a stroke, it's going to damage part of your brain. And for a period of time, whatever that part of your brain used to do, for example,
Hmm.
control one part of your body, your brain's not going to be able to do that anymore.
Right.
So how do we get better? Well, what it turns out is the brain can rewire itself. It's almost an incredible process, brain plasticity. And step by step, parts of your brain that didn't used to control your body, but are next to the parts of the brain that did, they take over that function that needs to be done.
Mm.
They rewire themselves, so they stop doing whatever they did before and they start doing this. But the only way that happens is through practice and learning, right? So it
Right.
sounds like you went through what sounds like some pretty great rehab, and it sounds like you engaged in a lot of like new learning. You talked about kind
Yeah.
of the creative things that you were asked to do.
Yeah.
Well,
Drawing. Yeah.
pushing the brain in that way, even though it's incredibly hard, right? You literally can't move part of your body, but a
Mm.
physical therapist helps you. Well, let's just take the tiniest little baby steps here. Well, that new learning and new challenge rewires your brain to take over those functions that are missing. So, stroke recovery is an incredible example of brain plasticity, but it shows us that actually that's true in all of our brains all the time, right? We don't
Yeah.
have to have the brain damage of a stroke. We don't have to go through that terrible traumatic experience to realize that through intensive practice and challenge and learning, we can rewire our brains in the same way that your brain got rewired to,
Yeah.
be able to control your body again. All of us can rewire our brains to be able to have better, strong, memory, attention, speed, or all those kinds of skills. So it
Yeah.
sounds like an incredible process you went through. A challenging, terrible thing, but an amazing illustration of what the brain can do when we push it and we ask it. And I'm glad you got the help, and I'm glad you had
Yeah.
the tenacity and the willpower.
Yeah,
Sure.
I was determined. It was a life and death decision. I really said, do I want to live or do I want to die?
Yeah,
So I had two children that I could not even bear to think I could never see them again, or they
yeah,
could see me.
yep,
So with the difficulty that I went through, and thank God for my husband that was there and helped me through the painful times, that when I couldn't get dressed or tie my shoes or bend or do
yep,
things, that if I
yep,
dropped something I couldn't pick it up, or
yep.
walking I was limping. And I think about it now, and it's really surreal, because I see myself now and I go, wow, I was such a different person 8 years ago.
Yeah, and
Totally
again,
different person.
imagine if you hadn't had that tenacity and drive or love for your children, or
Mm.
love for your husband, or the help you got from your therapist. You could have sat on the couch and watched
Yeah.
TV, and in which case, today you would still have those disabilities. But
Yes.
you
Yeah.
don't, because you pushed your way through with learning. And that's the same way we think about aging, right? If you accept that brain aging is inevitable, that you're going to slow down, that your memory is going to get worse, that you're going to get dementia, well, you can accept it. And eventually, in
Yeah.
fact,
No,
that's
I'm
going to
not
be what
accepting
happens.
that.
That's a
Mm-mm.
self-fulfilling prophecy. But if you
Yeah.
do things that challenge yourself, push yourself, even when they're a little uncomfortable, even when they're a little hard, right?
Right.
So
Right.
doing BrainHQ, for example, these are very challenging brain exercises. They've actually been used in stroke rehab studies as well for these same kind of reasons, because they drive brain plasticity. But by doing these challenging brain exercises, you can rebuild, strengthen those
Yeah.
brain connections, that brain health, and end up with sharper cognitive performance, just like the recovery process you had. We can all do that to build
Yeah.
strengtheners, stronger and healthier brains. So
I mean, that's
amazing
how much.
story.
I mean, I believe it, because I'm a witness.
Yeah,
Like
you're a witness. You're a
I've
product of it. You did
I'm a
it.
product of it, and I told people, I've known people who had strokes after me, and
Yep.
many of them are still in not a good state.
Yep.
And I tell them, you have to push forward. It's what you have to train your mind, the will to live.
Yes. You
Do
have
you
to
still
train
have
your
life
brain.
in you? Do
You
you
have to
want to
train your
continue
mind.
living?
Right.
There's so much to see.
Yep.
So you have to, but a lot of people get depressed. So it's a whole cycle. And I
No, it
remember
is
there
a
was
whole
times,
cycle.
yeah. I mean, I remember times being depressed, feeling, having pain for a long time, for
Yep.
about a year, really not understanding why things didn't function right, and fighting with my brain, going, but I want to move my foot. Why are you not moving? Like
I
I
did
would
not
fight
move
with
it.
myself.
Well, that depression is very challenging, because, of course, people are depressed because they've had this, very traumatic life event.
Yeah.
But also, the brain itself controls your mood and your affect,
Mm,
your spirits. And after you've had a stroke, or after a person's had a traumatic brain injury, for example, maybe they fell off their motorcycle, maybe they're coming back from the war after blast
mm,
exposure. Literally, the wiring in the brain that controls how bright do I feel, how alert do I feel, am I in a good mood or not, often that wiring itself is disrupted by the stroke
wow.
or the brain injury. And so a person, they say, hey, I feel down, I just can't get off the bed, and we want to help them get off the bed, but the circuits in their brain that help them get out of bed themselves are broken. So it's a
Right.
very tough nut. But with the right help and the right love and the right spirit, people really can rebuild their brains, and
Yeah.
come back to a much better place, and go on to an amazing line of work, as you obviously did. So I'm really
Yeah.
impressed.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. I've been doing the podcast almost 3 years now, bringing all different types of people, just giving people little tidbits of, you can do this better, eat better,
Yep.
just enjoy your life better. You get a moment when that happened to me. It's like your life, like they say, your life passes in front of you,
Yeah,
and
that's exactly right.
it
That's
really does. And then you go, okay, I can't look back. What happened? What am I going to do forward? What am
yeah.
I looking forward to
Well, that's
for the
exactly right.
future?
It's all about taking control of the way we live our lives.
Yes.
How we how we use our bodies, how we use our brains, how we eat, how we interact with our friends and family and our loved ones, and realizing that, hey, if we take control of that, and it can be a little hard, can be a little challenging, but if we take control of that, we're going to be so much better off, or physically better off, we're going to be mentally better off, we're going to have better brain health, but most importantly, our quality of life, right? Our ability to do all the things that we love are going to be better.
Yeah,
But it's
that
not easy. And so getting some regular advice and tips from someone like you is pretty helpful.
Thank you. Thank you. I do hope I, help some people out there. Because there's always challenges. I have challenges mentally sometimes myself because lately I had a physical issue that caused me to have some brain issues. And I didn't know, I thought I was just depressed. And I'm
Yeah.
like, why is my brain like foggy? And I can't, like, I have a couple of months this year that I don't remember.
Oh my
Like
goodness.
I had I moved, I did a lot of changes. So I
Hmm.
think it affected me emotionally and I didn't realize it.
Yeah.
So,
You a lot of people talk about this kind of brain fog, right? And it's a very general term, but it comes from a lot of cases, right? We talk to patients who, for example, have gone through cancer treatment, and a very common
mm,
thing they report is, hey, I have brain fog, I have chemo fog, I have cancer fog. We talk to people who have multiple sclerosis, for example, and that's got some very specific physical health issues, but often they report, hey, I just feel foggy, my attention's not good, my
right.
concentration. People who've had chronic HIV infection, for example, right?
Mm,
Middle-aged men, for example, like, wow, my brain doesn't feel so good. Is that because
mm,
I'm getting older? Like, hey, man, you're only 42. You're not that old
right.
yet. So
Exactly.
this is something related to your health condition. Or, of course, we've all heard of recently after COVID infection. A lot of
Yes.
people
I had
reporting
COVID.
brain fog after COVID. And,
Mhm.
it's actually interesting to me as a brain scientist because all of this is a lot like accelerated aging, right? The kind of symptoms that
Mm,
people report in multiple sclerosis or HIV or cancer or COVID are a lot like, you talk to someone maybe who's 78 years old and they feel like they've slipped a
wow.
little bit. And what's going on inside the brain? Well, it turns out that what's happening inside of the brain is the brain's just kind of getting noisy. It's slowing down and
Mm,
getting less accurate. Like it's an old radio where the
mm,
tuner has gone off a little bit and there's some kind of static. And if you're my age or your age, you probably remember how radios
yeah.
were like that. And if it gets off the tuner a little bit, it can be harder to hear the music or harder to hear what the announcer is saying because it's got that staticky noise. Well, as we get older, our brain actually gets noisier, but it's also true that
Mm,
our brain gets noisier if we have multiple sclerosis or chronic HIV infection, or some cases COVID or traumatic brain injury. So that internal brain noise, we're trying to listen to the world, we're trying to see the world, but there's that noise. And actually, that's why people talk about it like fog, right? It's like you're looking at the
yeah.
world and it's kind of foggy out. You can't
Yeah.
quite see all the details. Well,
Right.
that's the perception of having a noisy brain. And when we built BrainHQ, exactly what we wanted to do is we wanted to take that noise out. We wanted to take that fog out. So when you do BrainHQ exercises, what you end up doing is that you end up hearing things or seeing things. And, we'll ask you, we'll show something on the screen really quick and then ask you, hey, did you see this or did you do that? Right. And if you get it wrong, no problem. It slows down so you can eventually do it. And if you get it right, well, it speeds up. And so making the brain faster and
Mm,
more accurate that way, that's what starts to take out that noise. That's what starts to pierce through that fog. That's what starts to bring that radio back on signal. And that's exactly
mm.
how BrainHQ works. So you're mentioning of the symptoms you had or the experience you had those few months ago. That's exactly what's happening in the brain. It gets noisy, it gets foggy, or it gets off the signal, and we can bring it back on with the right kind of brain training exercises.
That's awesome. I'm gonna get on there and do some training. I could use it because
That,
I feel it. I feel it's the same symptom I had when I had COVID. It's the
okay.
same
Yep.
kind of like I feel like something's right here in the middle of my brain,
Yep.
like
Yep.
a pressure almost, and then just kind of I don't feel focused. I just kind of like la la,
Yeah,
kind of
well,
thing.
you've mentioned you had a stroke and you mentioned you had COVID and you had this other thing that happened in your life. And, these are all risk factors for brain health, right? And you
Mhm.
probably, it sounds like you know about risk factors for diabetes, for example, right? People know, well, if I've got higher, blood sugar, or if I eat this wrong kind of food, or I'm sedentary, these are all risk factors for
Right,
diabetes. Well,
right,
having the kind of brain health issues that you mentioned, and these are outside of our control, right? It's just bad
right,
luck, right? You had a
right,
stroke, you had COVID. This is not your fault. It's not anything you did wrong.
right.
But nonetheless, these are risk factors for brain health going forward. And so for a person like you have a few of these risk factors. It's even more important to think about, well, hey, what are the things I can do? that I can add some protective factors now.
Yes.
Right? I got these risk factors, whether I like it or not. What can I
Right.
do to build up these protective factors? Well,
Right.
doing BrainHQ help improve your brain health in that way. Making sure you're getting regular exercise, which you're probably doing already to maintain your health, right? Thinking
Right.
about what you eat, which you're probably doing to
Yeah.
maintain your metabolic health. But all these things actually can help build up protective factors in your brain as well, so that even a person like you who's had some bad luck, who's had some brain health risk factors,
Right.
you don't just have to say, well, too bad for me, brain's out of
Yeah.
luck. You can say,
No.
hey, actually, I can build up my brain health. I can maintain those brain health factors. So that's really exciting and important.
No, that is exciting. I'm always happy to find things like this that come to me. I always say God sends me the right information, the right people. So
Here
that's
we
why,
are. Here we are.
yeah. So we are talking about brain health. And like I said, I'm a caregiver to my mother and my aunt, and I see it on them, the memory, and it's the saddest thing you want to watch.
Yep. Yep.
My
Well,
aunt was a branch manager at a bank for most of her life, and
wow.
now she doesn't know what day, what time, nothing. She's just
Yeah. No,
in
that's
another
very,
world.
very tough. Well, taking care of
Yeah,
yourself is a good idea, so you can help take care of her, right?
exactly. People say,
All the
I
time.
have to stop worrying as much, and I have to take care of myself,
Right. So you can be
because
there
I
for
won't be around to take care of them.
her, and you want to be, and you want to be.
Exactly. I still feel young inside, so I gotta fight
Well,
it.
you're acting pretty young on this podcast, so I think you're doing all the right things.
If you see my mother, she looks amazing. She's going to be 87 in
Wow.
2 weeks.
Oh,
And she has,
congratulations.
yeah, thank you. So she has Alzheimer's. They diagnosed her with Alzheimer's. So her
Yeah.
short-term memories, little by little, certain things she can't forget when she puts something. But
Yep.
she walks 5 times a day outside, gets
Okay.
her son. She's a classical pianist. She still can
Wow.
play the piano.
Does she still play?
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
She could
Well, you might.
remember all her music. All her music she could remember.
It
She's
sounds
been
like she's at
playing.
the very earliest stages, and you might try Brain HQ with her as well. You could sit
I'm
down and
going
help her
to.
learn a little bit and see if that's something she could work on. Any little bit you can do is helpful, I think, at those points. My mom is exactly the same age as your mom. My mom's 87 years old. She lives in Washington, D.C. And she still she also plays. She plays the harpsichord, which you probably know is like
Oh,
the piano. So
yeah,
she still plays that every day. I think that kind of stuff is very good for your brain health. And she does Brain HQ as well, and I think it's helping keeping her going. So
that's good. Yeah, my
wonderful.
mother wants to always be busy. She does the dishes every day. She's
Wow,
cleaning.
good.
She puts on makeup every day still. She told me
Good
that
for her.
I have to go buy eyebrow pencil because she ran out in some foundation. But she's still to this day.
Live your best life. That's what we're all
Exactly.
about here. Live your best
Exactly. I feel like I'm living a double now since I had that stroke. I'm like, I'm not missing anything.
life. No, you're in bonus time here, I think. That's exactly
Exactly.
right.
Yes.
So,
Exactly. Well, I put the link down there so everybody can see
yeah.
brainhq.com. I have it
And
scrolling down there.
And I should say, anyone who wants to try this out, you can go to that website, www.brainhq.com. You can actually register for free. It will give you one brain exercise per day at no cost. You can just try it out for yourself and see if it's for you or not. And this is the Spanglish podcast, or supported by the Spanglish podcast group,
Right.
I suppose. And I should let everyone know it's available in English, as you see down there, but it's also available in Spanish.
Well,
So if you
perfect.
go and register, you can swap your language to Spanish, or you can just go to, I believe it's es.brainhq.com, and you can just start BrainHQ in Spanish.
Okay, great. So everybody out there, we got English and Spanish for those who are watching the podcast, and it will be aired on the Rebooted Mindset YouTube and also on the Spanglish Entertainment side as well. And I most likely will have something in the next issue of the magazine just to let people know about Brain HQ. I always try to do at least one health article in the magazine.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
So I appreciate you and thank you so much for your time. It was awesome talking to you and learning more about this. And I don't know if
Thanks
there's any
for
other things you want to add.
No, thanks for having me on the show. Very fun to talk to you, and very fun to talk to someone who's put so much brain health practice already to work in your life. Out there sharing that message with everyone. So thank you.
Yeah, I try.
You're doing more than trying. I can see that.
Well, have a great year. We're still, like I say, Happy New Year, right? We're still in the beginning of it's ticking fast. It's already February, which is crazy.
It is. But
But
Happy New Year to everyone. I agree.
yeah, exactly. Happy New Year and have a great year.
Thank you. Nice to talk
All
to you.
right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
So, well, everybody, that was an awesome interview. again, I do say so. Dr. Henry was awesome. I'm so happy about this Brain HQ. I feel that this will help a lot of people because when I went through the stroke 8 years ago, there was really nothing out there. And I had to look for things myself besides some of the doctors that I had. But one of them told me, you use too much one side of your brain. I'm so analytical, technology. So I wasn't being creative. So I started drawing and coloring and doing things like that just to open and word search and different things like that to kind of activate my brain. So that really helped. And like I said again, it's never too late to reboot your mindset. So you have to remember that it's all about what you think. If you want to live and you go through a traumatic physical, a crash or an accident, I don't know, whatever you're going through, it's all about what you want for your life. Do you want to continue living? Do you want to share time with family and loved ones and live your best life ever? Okay. Because if you didn't do it before, you're sure going to do it now because you see life in a totally different, mindset. So I do hope that this episode helps you. And please go to brainhq.com, get your free test on there, and get that brain healthy. Keep that brain healthy and the body. Remember the body and the brain. Okay, don't forget. I'll see you next week. Bye.